My name is Campbell Lovett, Conference Minister of the Michigan Conference United Church of Christ, bringing you another in our series of Faith for Thought. As a part of my work, I spend a lot of time in our local churches, and inevitably the conversations will always come around to the way things used to be. And many of us remember the way things used to be. Sunday morning, the pews were filled with people eager to hear a sermon and to experience worship. The Sunday school classes were filled to overflowing, and the music program was so dynamic and so important to the life of the church that often the processional of the choirs took 30 minutes or more. Well, you know that last one in particular is not true. But people's memories of the way things used to be are so important to shaping how they experience church today. And for a lot of our people, we experience church out of a feeling of lament, that it's not the way it used to be. And we are nostalgic for the past. I was at a church event and a young woman said, "You know, I hear people speaking out of this feeling of lament and nostalgia about the past, and you all need to know that we as younger people, we don't have that lament. We don't have that nostalgia. We weren't there. We don't understand that. And the more and more people talk about nostalgia and they lament the way things are now compared to the past, it has the dynamic that it frightens away young people from the church." And so I had the insight of how then do we use nostalgia to our advantage when we're planning? If we do have that sense of the church of the past, how can we use that to help us in our planning? And one of the things I thought about was, how can we try to recapture what the feeling was associated with that event from the past? And so when I spoke with one person about the church of the days gone by, he said, "Oh, I remember on Sunday mornings that we could just all be there together, and I was so happy." And so I said, "So you were happy anytime the church of all ages gathered together?" He said, "Yes, that was it." And I said, "So it's an important value to this church to plan multicultural or intergenerational, really, events?" And he said, "Yeah, that's a value we have." So take that feeling of, oh, it was so wonderful that we could all gather together, and translate that into a value of your church in planning, and say that it's important to us to create events that are intergenerational. So that was one example. Another was a person said, "Oh, I remember as kids we could come here and we could play hide and go seek and we could run through the church, and it was a wonderful experience for us." And I said, "So what was the feeling about that?" And he thought about it for a while, and he said, "It was knowing we could come to church and we were accepted." And I said, "So we could work on planning events where people feel accepted for who they are, whatever age." And he said, "Yeah, that would be important to us." So use that as another sense of planning for your church. Another woman talked about the importance of education for children and remembering how, in a sense, special she felt that she was learning more about the life of the church. And so I talked with her about, so one of the values of this church is that education is important and working with children is important. And she said, "Yes, that's very important to us." And I said, "It may not come through your church school." And she said, "No, it probably won't." And I said, "Well, what are some programs in the community that work with children that are successful that you could support? Where are some efforts that are teaching and leading and working with children where your church could get involved?" And so we began to brainstorm about that. Those are just a few examples of how we can unpack the nostalgia that we have about the past, find the feeling that's generated from that, and work that into programs, moving from our nostalgia into planning for the future. I hope that you'll spend some time at your church thinking about this same dynamic. If you lament that we aren't the way we used to be, recall what those feelings were and see how they can be translated into new programs that are true to your church but help involve a new generation that's not nostalgic, but for whom worship still may be very important, education may be a real value, and being accepted is a very important part for them. And I look forward to hearing back from you about how turning nostalgia into planning for the future works in the life of your church. Thank you, and God bless.